Mad Rat Dead is a niche rhythm platformer that very quickly became one of my favorite games of all time, and more importantly, has my favorite video game soundtrack ever made. I wanted to rank all the songs because I love them so much, but it was honestly incredibly difficult. Because they are all mostly also good, deciding the middle placements between the bottom few and top few was mostly just based on how I was feeling that day, and could change at any time because they are that close. For this ranking video, however, I will not be doing a tier list, because I think tier lists are lame. It's more fun to have a definitive list where I'm forced to decide one over the other, rather than just placing everything in the same tier where there's no differentiating factors other than the best and worst songs. My ratings will be determined just like all of my previous lists, with a majority of the emphasis riding on how much I personally enjoy the song, with only a little bit being about how well it fits into the setting, especially since the atmospheric aspect of these songs in particular are rarely, if ever, even a large factor. I think that every single song in the OST is extremely good and catchy to the point that I have listened to the entire thing several times over, not skipping any songs. I have them all on my permanent playlist besides one. The Mad Rat Dead OST was created by several different people, those being Camellia, Daiz Iwasaki, Ehisa, Zaki, Yo Oyamo, and Kazuya Takusa. I will list their names alongside the songs for each of the rankings, as well as provide a link to a playlist of every single song, which I urge you to go listen to because it is legitimately the best OST ever, and it changed my life and partially inspired me to compose my own music. Speaking of, I composed some songs about a year ago that were directly inspired by Mad Rat Dead songs. I'll go into more detail at the end of the video and play them because they are honestly some of the favorite songs I've ever made. Before I start, I also want to shout out the video Mad Rat Monday by The Chongo Show. This video was in part responsible for this OST becoming my favorite and is one of the best videos I've ever seen on YouTube, so give it a watch because it deserves all the attention it can get. With that said, let's get started. Okay, so this one barely counts, right? It's the only song that isn't on my playlist because I didn't even know it existed until I went to do my research for the video and saw my song count was one off of the playlist song count, so I had to go one by one and see which one was different, and it was this song. It is technically a song on the OST, but it's incredibly short and it's just meant to be a cute little jingle for the human girl that Mad Rat interacts with. It's honestly such an odd inclusion in the soundtrack because all other cutscenes use normal level songs. This is by no means a bad song, but I barely classify it as a song either, and it's the only one I haven't listened to extensively, so it gets last place. The first real song of the list is taken by the first real boss of the game. If I have one main complaint about the gameplay of Mad Rat Dead, it would be that most of the bosses are poorly designed and that they don't telegraph their attacks in a way that's really reactable. The mob rats are some of the worst offenders of this, as they take up so much of the screen later in the fight and drop down directly onto you with no warning. Gripes with the stage aside, the reason this song places at the bottom is really because it's harsh. Like I said at the start, I like every song in this soundtrack, and this song is no exception. It's tense and driving, which is great for a boss level. There's a clear alarm motif going on in the song, as the situation is of course alarming, but it's a bit simplistic in melody and hurts my ears just a little bit. It's an okay song for an okay level. I feel a little bad putting the final boss song this low on the list, but my criteria, as I said, is mostly based on personal enjoyment, and this song is more focused on the context of the game and fitting the vibe of the fight. It is incredibly hectic and has a frankly unintelligible rhythm for good portions of the song. This level alone took me 3 hours to get the S+ rank in hard mode because of the time limit alone. It fits the final boss perfectly in a gameplay sense. The rat god essentially taught Mad Rat how to use rhythm to move, and at the end of the game uses it against him by giving him one of the hardest songs to move to. perfect thematically, but because of that difficult rhythm, it makes the song awkward to listen to at times. It's a super cool song because of the themed aspects, but it isn't catchy in a normal sense, at least to me. The coolest part of the song is the very start, when all the rat squeaking noises are playing, as I imagine that to represent all the rats led to their death by the rat god. In my opinion, there aren't really any truly slow songs to speak of in this game. There are some that come really close, but I wouldn't really consider them to be slow. It's part of the reason this game has my favorite soundtrack, because I love high energy and fun songs. Neuchatel is one of the few songs that comes close to being a slow song, at least in comparison to the rest of the OST, and it's the least memorable of them to me. It has one of the best bass drops, but when the entire OST is filled with excellent bass drops, it doesn't mean as much. This song is also on the more depressing sides musically. It feels melancholy at times, which fits the state Mad Rat is in at the time, debating whether his dream to kill the scientist is a good one. The instruments are great, and the energy fits the tone, but it just isn't my favorite. I believe Cheesy Trap is technically the slowest song in the game. I also don't really know if it fits the tone of the story at the time, which is just Mad Rat being scared of ghosts and trying to escape the sewers. One of the reasons I like this song though is that I find it really funny. The vocal samples and feeling of mystery feel so out of place at times that it loops back to being really funny. Still, the song isn't as exciting as every song above it, but it is more memorable than Neuchatel, so I rated it higher. Is this a safe space to say that I think World 2 of this game is my least favorite in terms of music? It just doesn't have any exceptionally fantastic songs, whilst I think every other world has at minimum one that I think is an all-time classic. Despite that, I would say that from this point on is where my opinion of any of the upcoming songs could change drastically based on how I'm feeling on any given day. Drain is a fine enough song. It's catchy and fun, with some silly parts as we're still in the early of the story. My favorite parts are the 3 notes that play and all other sounds disappear, allowing them to really hit hard. Many of the songs in this game use the up and down bass motion, that dun 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 kind of sound. A bass instrument plays 2 notes prominently over and over and switches keys to change parts of the song. It gives a lot of songs a sillier vibe, and I think it's perfect for the whole game. It occurs so frequently in the soundtrack that I wanted to bring it up early so you can hear it in future songs. With all that praise, it still isn't an incredibly memorable song, but it's still very fun. Rat's Dream is the first song that's not a tutorial, and it's a great introduction to the game. The best parts of this song are the slide notes and the fantastic key change. It's also a clear example of the bass pattern I talked about in the last entry. The song is catchy, it's simple, it's easy to follow, which is great for an early level, but it also means it can't reach the same highs as some of the future songs in my opinion. I don't really understand why Distorted Graffiti gets the slide whistle and spring noise. What about Rat's drawing on the sewers gives those noises? Maybe the slide represents going down into the sewers, but we've been here for 3 net levels now, so what gives? Another thing, this song has an incredibly good brass section, and a really good breakdown that acts as the loop of the song. The trumpet here is just really, really good. Overall, the song is good, but we have way more amazing brass in the future, so for now it's simply a good song with some strange additions in my opinion. If I recall correctly, this is the only song to start with a crescendo from near silence, which is an interesting distinction from all the other songs. The other part of the song that sticks out is near the middle when all the instruments start sounding like they're out of tune and playing from lower quality speakers. It also switches to a waltz as it loops, which can be really disorienting, especially during gameplay. It's a fascinating song to digest and observe because of all its interesting aspects, but it also makes it not quite as catchy. I have more fun listening to the cool things happening more than humming along to the melody, which is what I value more in a song. This song, Sweet Trip, in the context of the game is really cool. It's intimidating and unsettling, but not in a dangerous way, more in an I don't want to be here anymore way. It has some of the same harshness from Bad Feeling, but I think it uses it much more effectively here and with a way better melody on top of that. It also doesn't use it the whole time and instead builds up to the harsh part, making for a more dynamic listening experience. A great quote-unquote slow song for the soundtrack because it keeps its energy, but in a different and more interesting way. Opportunist is one of the last regular levels in the game, and as such, it is very intense and fast. I love the way the piano sounds in this song. The melody halfway through is just fantastic. But strangely, I have no strong feelings about the string parts in this song despite them having some crazy runs. I'm also just neutral about the slower section that comes in later. It's still intense and I like the even slower part directly before the loop, but it doesn't speak to me like the piano melody does. That part is really carrying the song in my eyes. Nightmare Road is the first song to not be attached to a specific level or cutscene on this list. After the game released, there was some free DLC in the form of another world's worth of songs. These songs feel like they were meant to be a World 7 that didn't happen. My favorite part of this song in particular are the repeated notes. They are fun to bounce along with, and as a whole it's just a great song. Nothing too special, especially compared to some of the other DLC songs though. Electro QT is simply a fun song to bounce your head with. It has a catchy melody, a good drop, fun instruments, and a steady rhythm. There are no real flaws with this song at all to me, but there are no real standout moments besides the decent drop. I honestly don't have much to say about this one. It's a great song, but not as good as the others after it, so it ranks here. Bowing Steps could have been the most unique song in the DLC, but there is another that has it beat in uniqueness. Even so, this is still a great song. A heavy emphasis on strings, which is further proved by the title being Bowing Steps, as in bowing a violin or any string instrument really. This song features one of the most obvious slow sections, and it's quite good and leads up directly into the drop back into the fast and fun strings. I like that this song has a very clear identity. I absolutely adore the entire OST, but sometimes songs can slip through the cracks because they don't feel like they have their own identity. Electro QT, which I think falls into that very same trap, is a great song, but not something I tie a name to unless I'm super familiar with it. This song does not suffer that issue at all, and is very clearly a high energy string piece, and it's a good one at that. I think that this is one of, if not the most emotional song in the OST. Even the title of Rebirth makes it feel climactic and like the story is to resolve soon. It doesn't lose the energy and fun that the rest of the OST has though. It maintains its connection with the rest of the OST through its instruments and percussion line. I do think that it loops in an unsatisfying way though, with a simple fade out into repeat. Almost every other song has a unique and interesting way of looping back to the start, so this emotional song not having that makes it feel less interesting to me. Mini Moon is at kind of a weird place in the story. It comes right after Rebirth, an emotional song, and right before Neo Opportunist, a song representing the coming finale with Intentionally in Danger. Mini Moon is stuck right between those two as a more goofy song that matches some of the much earlier songs in the game far better than an endgame track. Despite maybe not fitting the theme the best, this is a fun song with some great piano section and fills. It's a great way to have a little bit of fun before the much harder and more intense final few levels with a lighthearted song. Heartless Being is the penultimate song of the game. It is incredibly fast and extreme. It also makes use of some interesting polyrhythms that the player is actually forced to follow, which makes hard mode especially difficult. Near the start, it has what I believe are triplets that start on an upbeat, and later on I think it has a 5-note rhythm in a 4/4 measure. Just diabolical in a rhythm game, but it makes for a really fun song to listen to. It's very complex and full of noise, but it also has a great melody and softer parts to break up the intensity, and it makes for a final great level song. We've finally reached another boss track, and it's also for the boss that I think has the best designed fight in the game, where things are telegraphed clearly, but it's not a cakewalk. The song has heavy focus on an interesting synth instrument, which is clearly meant to mimic noises of a cat, as the boss is a cat. It also has some piano parts, but the best part is when the piano takes center stage for a bit near the middle. The song is meant to be intimidating, which it is successful at with a great bass line. It's a fantastic boss song for the best boss in the game, gameplay-wise at least. I think that Yellow Invitation has the best build-up in the game. Maybe the drop isn't quite as good as some of the other drops in the game, but the build-up to that drop is exciting, long, and driving. This song has that same sound of old speakers or a record player that Stilton had, And it makes sense story-wise, as we are back in the lab, but only in Mad Rat's head. It's all fake. So the songs in World 3 are stranger with intentional oddities or lower quality sounds to drive home the fact that this is not a real place. It's probably my favorite tie-in to gameplay or story that the OST has. Call Me Jack is one of the fastest songs in the first half of the game, and as such it can be a huge difficulty spike, especially with the new wind mechanics introduced here that make you move even faster. The song of course follows this speed by being exciting and while intimidating at the start, has a sense of freedom as it goes on since Mad Rat is finally outside. This song also just has one of my favorite melodies in the entire game, starting at 1 minute and 33 seconds. It is super satisfying to listen to and whistle alongside. I think this might have been the hardest placement for me. It's a fantastic song, and some days I think it's top 15 worthy, whereas other days I think it could be as low as number 30 compared to previous songs. Ultimately, I decided that the singular best part of the song didn't outweigh what I like more in future songs, but that's honestly subject to change any day of the week. So this is my least concrete placement. I would say that this is the last somewhat slow song on the list. It has the most chill energy on the entire soundtrack, which gives it a great identity and contrasts great with the next stage story-wise, where you essentially repeat the stage with much faster music. I adore the instruments that are used here. They feel so unique compared to the rest of the songs, but still blends wonderfully. The piano melody is so complex and fun to listen to, and the bass instrument is smooth as silk. A wonderful song and a great addition to the OST. The Mad Rat Dead rap was one of the more interesting entries to rate on this list. It's the final listed DLC song, but it just has the instrumentation of Mad Rat Heart with new lyrics by Top Ham Hat Kyo. It was a really hard song to place, as it's just another song from the OST but with lyrics. I really enjoy the addition of lyrics, but I still prefer the bass song more. So the question was, if I just rank them next to each other, or do the lyrics make me like the other song drastically more, or just a little bit more? I enjoy instrumentals a lot because I love listening to them and how they interact with each other. Lyrics make that process a lot more difficult, which is why I tend to like instrumentals more. In the end, while I thought that the addition of lyrics is great and I do love the song, I think the bass song is just better to me, and there are songs I would rather listen to between this and the normal song. That doesn't mean the song is bad by any means. It's still placed extremely well, and the bass song is so good already that it was bound to place well. The lyrics are fun, and you can't really make the song worse, honestly. I just prefer it without the lyrics most of the time. Discounting the title screen track, Mad Rat Alive is the first song in the game for the tutorial. It has a very different vibe from future tracks, but aspects of this song will appear in future tracks as a way to represent many things, such as the Rat God, or even the idea of things being in Mad Rat's head, as there are parts of the song that have the old speaker effect like in Yellow Invitation or Stilton. It's a catchy and great introduction song that will be important in future songs, but there's not much more else to say. It's pretty good. Ghost of Culvert is the best song from World 2, and it's the boss theme. I think the Rat Ghost monster is a pretty okay boss gameplay-wise. It shares some of the positives from the cat fight, but has some issues with unclear goals at times that lead to unfair deaths in my opinion. The song is really fun and has an urgency to it that feels different from some of the other intense songs, despite being the only boss that you don't need to defeat in any way. It feels the most like a boss fight songs at times with the great string parts as well. It also matches well with the rest of the sewer themes with some weird noises and a focus on brass instrumentation.
The car crash ejection challenge! Unbuckle your seatbelts because this Saturday at the Dave & Buster's parking lot you'll be flying for a cash prize! How do I compete?
This is the song I mentioned earlier in Cottage House that plays when you repeat the level but faster in order to prevent a car crash from killing the human child. The song is meant to be invigorating and driving more than any other song, and it accomplishes that wonderfully. It keeps the speed and energy very well throughout the song, and while it has hints of sadness, it's mostly hopeful, which is exactly what the title of the song wants it to be. Sprinting Night is another one of those songs that feels like it's in a weird place between two much more important story beats. After Neuchatel, the relief after saving the girl, and before Sweet Trip, the real start of Rat God being the main villain. It's a peppy song that fits really well into the soundtrack, though it does struggle a bit to have its own identity amongst them. Even so, it's still incredibly catchy and fun to listen to, so it places well on my list. This song simply starts fun. The synth used here in particular stands out as a bouncy instrument that boosts the song for me. My favorite parts of the song are when it's being used. Upon multiple listens, I believe that the synth is the same one as used in Dark Fear, which is the song right after this one, so it makes sense as the calm before the storm of the cat boss fight. The drop in this song is also just really fun to listen to. It has a more cheerful vibe than a majority of the tracks, and it stands out in a great way for that. Passion in Blue and Underground Hug are linked in my head. They're the two sides of the cat boss fight and are more cheerful than any of the other songs really. Passion in Blue is just faster and more involved, making it more enticing to me. It feels more unique as a whole even compared to Underground Hug, and I adore the clap sound that happens during the drop. I hope I'm correct in saying this, but the song as a whole has a Latin or salsa vibe, which I really like. It's a dance song, which is fitting as it's the only song where you are actively getting help during gameplay from another character, that being the cat. I thought that this song was called Emmental Catalepsy forever, which sounded fitting for one of the final stages, but it's actually called Emmental Catalepsy. I always thought it was cataclepsy and meant like catastrophic. Emmental is a type of cheese, which in hindsight makes sense because many of the song titles or cheese puns are just names of cheeses. Anyways, this song is one of the fastest in the game, and it is the best song from the final world in my opinion. The way it starts all slow before hurtling you forwards at breakneck speeds on one of the hardest levels in the game is so fun and thrilling that it always stuck in my mind. I also appreciate that it isn't overbearing. Neo Opportunist and Heartless Being and Mad Rat Die can all be too much to listen to at times, but Emmental Catalepsy never feels like too much despite being faster, so it's a fantastic song. I think that World 4 has potentially the best lineup of songs in the game. They have a much heavier emphasis on woodwinds in general. World 1 I think has more synths, World 2 has brass, and World 3 has those intentional quality oddities representing the story at that point. World 4 is in nature, so more natural sounds work well, and I love woodwinds. Chaource starts slow but picks up fast and has a great vibe overall. It feels simpler than the other World 4 songs, which generally make me like those ones better, but this one is no pushover. The wind trills make for some great ear candy, and the rhythm that happens at exactly 1 minute and 10 seconds into the song is my favorite rhythm to perform during the hard mode stages in the entire game. Sorry, Mad Rat Dead Rap, but I just like the bass song way more. This is the first song players hear in the game as it plays at the title screen, but it also plays as a normal level theme much later into the game, which is a really cool moment. This song is a perfect representation of the entire game in my opinion. It's fast, exciting, fun, bouncy, and doesn't take itself too seriously. A perfect encapsulation of the game as a whole. A fantastic start to a fantastic game and a fantastic soundtrack. The start of Dancing Wind is one of my favorites. The melody is great, but I really like the way the bass line moves on the offbeats for like a really funky rhythm. This song has more of an emphasis on strings rather than winds for a song called Dancing Wind, but strings are still an instrument that convey the natural world well, so it works. At one point, it sounds like the song has looped, but then it surprises you with a new section and then a very minimalist section with pizzicato strings to contrast the held strings of the rest of the song. It then rises up chromatically before the real loop, making for a fun song that has a lot of interesting sections to listen to. This song is such a bop, and for people in the know, you know that this song being so high on my list means good things for a particular song later on. Heart is probably my favorite character in the game, and this is his introductory song where you learn that it's him providing these beats for you, and what a beat is. I don't have much in the way of analysis, I just love the way the song sounds. Melodies and instruments are all great here. This might be the strangest boss in the game with the strangest boss theme in the game. It's much happier than any of the other boss themes by a wide margin and has a lot of retro sounds. While I'm not really sure what they represent story-wise, they sound amazing, and the whole song reminded me of the ending credits to Wreck-It Ralph and Owl City as a whole. This was then reinforced greatly by the mashup by the Chongo Show, so now the link is forever tied to this song for me. The boss itself looks like it would be the worst one gameplay-wise, but for some reason this was the boss I had the easiest time with on my first playthrough. Maybe it's because the song was so good it improved my gameplay. This feels like the most climactic song in the game, a real journey's end kind of song where all the past adventures are running through your mind. It's a beautiful song with some of the prettiest sounds in the entire soundtrack. It still keeps the energy from the OST intact with some amazing moments and melodies. The way it calls back to Mad Rat Alive with the melody and motifs is just the best and further solidifies this as a final send-off of a song. It's a shame that it never got its own dedicated level because it really deserves one more than many of the other DLC songs in my opinion. This song is in a 5/4 time signature. For a rhythm game, that's brutal, especially one that can be as challenging as Mad Rat Dead. This is a DLC song, so it never is required to be played with, but it's such a good song that it would be a shame not to. This is one of, if not the fastest song in the game, which makes it even harder to control with the unusual time signature and evil rhythm it gives you. The song itself is exciting and climactic, as if it were meant to be the song right before the final boss, and it would fit right in. It's such a good song, and more reason it's so sad that it doesn't have its own level. One Day at the Laboratory has one of the most infectious melodies in the entire soundtrack, and alongside it some of the best harmonies, chords, and other aspects generally. It also has parts that sound very mechanical and interesting. The mechanical parts aren't my favorite, but the melodies during the other parts are so good that it doesn't matter. The song above this one I like more, but their melodies generally aren't as fantastic as this one. This is the most unique song on the soundtrack, in my opinion. Full-on circus clown energy, and I'm all here for it. This is where the goofy sound effects thrive, and this song knows because it has so many of them. I'm particularly fond of this piece because it is one of the songs that I modeled my own Mad Rat Dead inspired track off of. Because of that, I'm more familiar with its little intricacies and how it uses some extreme dissonance to add tension and how the fun bass walkdowns are. I think that this is the most fun song in the game, which is why it's so sad that again, it's a DLC song because this would have been the most fun level in the game. Cheddar Chaser is the best song from World 1. I love the way the synth comes in gradually over the piano before basically taking over before it repeats the process again. Then the saxophone comes in to completely change the vibe before the drop with the combo of the piano and synth. It is a fantastic song and one of the best to whistle along with. The ending with the spooky instruments also reminds me a lot of the Haunted Mansion ride from Disneyland. Overall, it's just a blast and one of my favorites from the whole game. Plash, Plop, Gurgle was my first favorite song from the game, and the song that made me fall in love with the soundtrack as a whole. Even if other songs beat it out later, this was the first one to really capture my heart. It has the same effect that many of the other World 3 songs share, but this one just has a far better melody than any of those other ones. It has a fun and peppy energy, but a sinister and spooky vibe hiding in the background, which is just perfect for the story at this point. The start of the song is also one of the best build-ups in the game. It lasts just long enough to make you really want that drop, but not long enough to become annoying or repetitive. A remix of Heart's Beat for the boss fight against your own heart. This is, in my opinion, the best stationary boss fight in the game, as it feels like it gives you the most telegraphs for the attacks and easiest arena to move around in. The song itself has the best bass line in the entire game, and remixes the melody of Heart's Beat, which was already nearly in my tops 10, so making that song but better in every way is just about the best thing they could have done for this boss fight. The song is another one that I based my own composition off of, and in my opinion, my best one inspired directly from Mad Rat Dead. I think that Breath of Forest might have the best piano in the entire game. The speed at which it moves and the chords it hits are so interesting and invigorating. This song also has the absolute best use of wind instruments in the game. Despite all that, my favorite part of the song is when the brass comes in. The part they play is perfect and reminds me a lot of Mario sports games, which is odd but not a bad thing in the slightest. There's nothing to complain about with this song, it's perfect through and through, and it was my favorite song in the soundtrack until I heard number 1. I don't know what the general consensus for the best tracks in the game are by the community, but the community isn't super large anyway, and I've only seen a couple of people online talk about the game at any length at all, but I have to imagine that Outside must be a fan favorite, if not the general favorite for the entire game. There's just something special about this song. It captures the same energy that Mad Rat Heart does, being an encapsulation of the entire game in a single song, and yet it somehow does it better than that song in every way imaginable. It has the goofy and unserious nature of the game, it has a great number of the fantastic instruments, it has an amazing rise and drop, it shares the bass pattern a lot of the soundtrack has, and of course it has an incredible melody just like the rest of the game. It functions both as a representation of the game as well as an ending because this song plays as the credits song. With all of the DLC songs, I lament that the fact that they didn't have their own level tied to them, making them more memorable. Well, Outside shares that same predicament, but I can't really imagine a fitting stage for it. It works too well as it is, a song representing the journey and its end. It is the final song I based my own composition around because it is my favorite Mad Rat Dead song and I wanted to try to make something just as good as it. Even if I didn't, I learned a lot from making it, and I know that it will help me make something just as good someday. That's why Outside is my favorite Mad Rat Dead song. Now that I've finished the ranking, it's time to move on to the songs that I made to replicate the Mad Rat Dead style. As I mentioned before, I based them off of the songs Mad Heart, Outside, and Gloucester Carousel respectively. I originally made these songs for an OST Composing Jam called OST Composing Jam 8, which was held from August 29th, 2025 to September 7th, so I made these songs about a year ago. I ranked 87th out of 269 entries, which was a little below my average placements in previous jams, percentage-wise at least, but I was the most rated entry overall. To make these songs, I had to really try and understand how Mad Rad Dead songs worked. Things like the 2-note bass patterns were important, as well as the density of the songs, with lots of complexities in them. I have multiple bass instruments to make it fuller, and each song focuses on a different one, being a synth bass, a piano bass, and a tuba. There are synths and brass throughout, but not really woodwinds because the songs I focused on didn't use those as a focus. Overall, I'm just incredibly proud of these songs, and they're some of the favorite ones I've ever made, so I hope you enjoy them as much as I do. Thank you so much for watching. I really wanted to make a video on Mad Rat Dead because I want more people to know what it is and to hear its incredible soundtrack. I've already started my next ranking video, so it shouldn't take multiple months for the next one to come out, so look forward to that. Thank you.